Hey, we're here and we're back. Mr. Robert Douglas is here, and he's a trailblazer in open source technology from OpenStrategyPartners.com. He has over 20 years of experience in software. He authored the first ever Drupal book, in which inspired a generation of developers. He spoke before the European Parliament about copyright reform, and he has produced the Open Goldberg Variations. He's worked with Google Summer of Code, and he's advancing discussions on the Model Context Protocol to unify marketing. So we're here to talk about software, about startups, about open source, about scaling, about AI. Who knows what we'll get to? We'll have a lot of fun. Mr. Robert, glad to see you.
Hey, Mr. Robert. Glad to see you. Nice to be here as well. And thanks for the intro.
Yeah, and I'm excited to geek out about software and tech, but also try to keep it accessible, right? It's the Marketer of the Day podcast. And as you know, you can have this really great idea, this really great solution, but then if you're not careful, no one will know about it, right? Or it'll just kind of, you'll miss the mark as far as timing or what people want. And so we want to have our cake and eat it too. And that's what you're here to talk to us about, especially what you've done and what you've learned. And so what did I miss in that bio in introducing you? What are you currently all about? What just has you super enthused and excited?
Yeah, and you actually did mention it right at the end. It's called the Model Context Protocol. And it's not from me. It's not from my company, Open Strategy Partners. It's rather from the company Anthropic, which makes the model Claude. So if you're geeking out on AI, like I have been for the past 2 years, you've probably run into Claude as an alternative to ChatGPT. And what Anthropic have done is they've basically taken over the industry in a way by releasing something called Model Context Protocol. And what is that? So I'm going to break it down. Model, that means like the large language model that you might be used to working with, like ChatGPT or Claude or maybe Grok or Gemini on Google. If you're not into switching models when you do your AI, then those are fictional names to you, but like they're just the brain that's doing the AI in the background, and you can switch between them. And the problem with the models is they always need a context in which to work. They need information. They need your prompt. Maybe they need access to the web or some documents. Maybe they need to talk to SEMrush to get some SEO ideas. And that's the context. And they also need tools. If they're going to do any work for you, they need to be able to access systems or read or write files or send an email or post a blog, make an image. They need this agency to do things on your behalf. And protocol, that's the third word, is something that anybody can use and adhere to. So what Anthropic have done with a model context protocol is they've given us a way to give models their context, in particular tools, and they've done it in an industry sweeping way so that it works with any LLM and any AI technology. And this has happened in November. And I'm here to be the vanguard and tell you, as marketers, you will be using this and it will change your life. And you don't have to do anything in particular, it will come to you. But I want to describe what it is and how it works and what I've done with it in my work at Open Strategy Partners.
Wonderful. And we do need this education, right? We do need to get our minds wrapped around something early. I mean, imagine somebody trying to get a handle on something as basic as ChatGPT now, or imagine if they are ignoring it now and in 2 or 3 years, they say, oh, maybe I should get into this. So it's good to at least get some awareness of what's happening now and what will be used more. And so as far as like using AI, I don't know about you, Robert, but I like a lot of my work is on just getting the inputs and outputs to fit together, right? I'm just like, hey, I'm interfacing and I'm like, hey, I need to figure out this other API and get this kind of JSON format. I need to validate it. It seems like that's, at least with me, like that's a lot of the headache, right? And just making sure that like all these different like systems interfaces talk to each other to begin with.
Oh, and you just put your finger right on the point, because what the Model Context Protocol does is it lets you extend what your LLM can do for you. You can install any of currently thousands and thousands of what are called model context protocol servers. It sounds scary, but it's not. They just hook them into Claude Desktop or whatever LLM you're using, and the LLM can see them. So you plug one in. Let's say I use Notion a lot for running my business, and I've got one for Notion. So all of a sudden, Claude can read all of my Notion posts and talk to me about them, or even write them for me, or reorganize them. If I'm on Asana, where we do our task management, and I've finished a task, I can say, "Hey, Claude, will you just mark that as done for me?" And it's done. I don't have to change the context from where I'm using my LLM to where I'm doing my work. And what's even more impressive is the model's ability to use multiple tools in sequence without me having to tell it how. So I might be writing a blog post, and I might want to get an idea about a certain company or a certain product. So I can say, hey, go read 10 pages of this company's website and give me a summary about where they're positioning this product for that audience. And then I can say, okay, that's great. I need to insert a paragraph about that into that blog post on WordPress that I've been writing. Perfect. Now, can you access Ahrefs and make sure that that same blog post has the optimal SEO tags in it, like the H1 and the page title, everything. Okay, update that too. Okay, publish it. Super. Now, use a browser to check it in mobile responsive to make sure that image is getting resized. And actually, I can do all of that. It's not fictional. It's current abilities from within one LLM client, like Claude Desktop. But I also use others for coding, like Cursor, and Jack Dorsey and Cube just came out with a new one called Codename Goose that you could use. And there are hundreds, of places where you can use AI these days. And all of them will eventually soon be able to use this type of tool. And it's just magical watching the LLM pick a tool, get some information from it, use that information into the next tool. You don't have to worry about the JSON formatting. It does that for you. Get the output from that, take it to the next one, and solve the problem that you've expressed in terms of your intention for you right before your eyes. And every step of the way, you get to accept what it's going to do. It says, I'm going to execute a command, or I'm going to talk to a website and get some information, or I'm going to do a web search, or I'm going to write a file for you, or I'm going to update a file for you. And you say yes or no, and you can stop it and say, hey, no, that's not what I wanted. Let me express myself a little more clearly. And then it goes on and does it again.
Well, amazing, and I think that this is helping to solve the sort of headache, because as soon as I started using ChatGPT, especially on a daily basis, I've never cut and pasted as much in my entire life as it's like I go to all kinds of web pages and put stuff in a document, and then I find myself kind of doing things way too hard, right? Using 3 different tools, and at first doing it on the fly, and then having to waste time and say, okay, well, here's my workflow, here's my to-do list, here's kind of my prompts and my templates and my swipe file. And then I spend all this time writing it, and I feel like I have to, just to kind of keep myself sane and keep all the thoughts together in my head. But then as soon as I write that document, then I kind of experiment more. And then the SOP is never quite caught up to what the actual actions are. And when you're describing that about like kind of you're like the boss basically, and you just stick in an LLM and you say, do this, do this, do this. It seems like that kind of keeps your brain from getting tired, because you're not doing all this kind of context switching. You're not thinking about the kind of the low level stuff. You're thinking more about the big picture. And I'm always very envious when there's someone like you who says, I've got it so dialed in. I use all these tools. I use Notion. I use Asana. I use Claude. And it gives me flashbacks to like high school, when there'd be like one extreme or the other, right? You'd have that friend who would like reformat their computer every single week, right? And they'd reinstall Linux and Windows and all these tools, and they'd get it all beautiful. And then next week they'd do it again. And you'd be like, man, you're always like learning. You're always on the cutting edge. And I find myself kind of on the other extreme. I get kind of locked into specific tools, and I'm just like, I know I'm using like this old text editor, and I'm using this old version of WordPress and this old thing because I'm trying to be productive, right? I'm trying to get stuff done, and I have a little bit of the FOMO of hearing someone like you and you say, "Hey, I use all these tools." And so, do you ever come across that, or do you think about that? How there's got to be a middle ground, right? These two extremes of like, oh, like if you spent all day long testing out new tools, you wouldn't get anything done. But if you spent all day long getting stuff done, you'd miss out on the tools. So like, what are your thoughts on that of the tool FOMO?
Yeah, that's a great point. And as entrepreneur in residence at Open Strategy Partners, it's literally my job to try all those tools and then to maybe make some recommendations or put some together in a specific way so that the team at Open Strategy Partners gets the most value out of them without them having to go and do all that figuring out themselves. So, for example, a tool that I've made recently based on the model context protocol. In fact, I made it yesterday. I was very excited about it. We've pioneered a way of doing positioning analysis when we're doing competitive analysis. So customer comes to us and we want to do competitive analysis. We want to see how the competitors are positioning on certain terms and keywords, not just whether they're getting SERPs in Google or their search volume, but like how are they actually talking about themselves to regards with saving money versus saving time, or convenience versus security, maybe sometimes very big concepts or dichotomies. And what we found is that with semantic analysis tools like vector databases and embedding models, we're able to look at the content not just from its discoverability in Google, but from its actual meaning. And we can analyze a website and say, they really talk about return on investment, or they really talk about compliance or GDPR or SOC 2 or whatever. Not just that they've got the keyword in every H1 tag on every page, but they're like really, it's high value, meaningful educational content. So we've been doing this analysis, but it's been really hard because you've got to get everything into a vector database. You've got to get grids of numbers out of it. And then we put this little chart where you're in a quadrant, and like the good companies up here and the laggards are down here. And if you change your messaging, you get up there, like in a Gartner quadrant, right? Like
Sure.
the leader's always way up there on the right. And yesterday, I found a new MCP server that I plugged into Claude, and it hooks up to a service called Graphlit, Graphlit, and I was like, all right, this is actually the perfect tool for making that type of analysis. And I had Graphlit index sites from OSP competitors, for example, just for fun, and then using nothing except a prompt, I was able to have the LLM crawl the sites, put them into semantic vector databases, do the exact type of analysis that I just described on them, and make an actual image on my computer that showed the three competitors spatially oriented based on two messaging dichotomies. And it's like, hey, that's something our team can use. They can use this prompt. They just have to put the keywords in and the competitors in, and it automates the rest. And I didn't write any code.
Amazing. And it's like I only knew about Cursor about like a year ago, and just this idea of like, hey, I can go and click this and tell it that, and it goes and like makes the code. It's an amazing time that we're living in, right? And there's definitely a need for people to know that this kind of stuff exists, that there's all kinds of APIs, there's new tools being made every day where you can just say, hey, I've got this need to create this image to like take all this data and make it simple for someone else on my team, and I can just plug in and get it done. And as far as us kind of accomplishing some of these things, do you ever think about like the time management aspect of it? Because it's so tempting to just geek out all day long, right? Of being like, hey, I need to make this for my team, and I could make it better and better, and maybe I could try out this other API or play around with the settings. But at some point, I just have to get something done. So do you ever think about that, about like balancing the quality of work and the deadlines and the getting it doneness of it all?
I mean, that's all I do. That's
Okay.
exactly my mission in life as the entrepreneur in residence at Open Strategy Partners, is to make sure that the team is able to focus on their work and get their work done more efficiently, and that the customers get more value from the work that we do. So we do a lot of strategy work for our customers, content, brand positioning, tone and voice workshops, SEO analysis, content architecture type stuff. We also do the operational content marketing for them, social media, blogs, whatever. But for that strategy, we feel that there's always another level of value that the customer can get from having done this strategy beyond just having done it or then giving it to the marketing team to execute on. So a lot of, for example, the example that I told you with the positioning statements, and visualizing them. Once you've done that strategic work to understand where your brand positioning is, then the model context protocol class of tools that are coming are going to make that type of strategic work even more valuable, because you'll be able to plug that into your model, and then everything that you touch for that client will take it into consideration and be based upon it. And this is kind of the reality now, if you can use the tools. And that's kind of a good segue. One of the tools that we released as an open source project recently is a model context protocol server. It's very easy to install into Claude Desktop. Once you get Claude Desktop running with model context protocol servers to begin with, I think you have to maybe install Python on your system, which is totally easy on a Mac, or Windows. But you've got to do that one step first, and then follow our instructions. But then when you open up Claude Desktop, then it's got access to these tools that we created for you. So one of them is our editing codes. So you can put a text into Claude, and the LLM will apply our editing codes as we use them internally to your entire texts. And it'll give you sentence by sentence suggestions on how to improve those sentences to meet the ideals that we work by. Another one is a brand positioning workflow. So you can take an arbitrary amount of information about a company. You can have Claude search the web on the company if you want, read the entire documentation, and it will do brand positioning based on feature extraction and categorization, and then assuming different personas and seeing what values and problems are solved from those clusters of features, to brand positioning statements that are based on technical truth, as we call it. Like, you speak about your product in a way that's actually provable and fulfilled by the features that you offer. And you can say, we promise this because, hey, that feature down there actually delivers that. And so we released a tool that does that for you. And if you plug that into Claude, then you've simply got that superpower at your beck and call. And you can say, hey, Claude, here's product X, and here's all the information on it. Give me a brand positioning value map. And it just does, based because of this tool. And I put the link in there. It's on the on GitHub, on the Open Strategy Partners GitHub organization, and it's called OSP Marketing Tools.
Well, very cool. And like you said, we'll have that link, but to easily get it, I imagine if someone Googles GitHub OSP marketing tools, that's probably like one of the first couple of results, and they can just jump right in and get to that code. And like, you're blowing my mind here, Mr. Robert, because all this, we're just at the beginning, right? Especially all this talk about the agentic workers, and up until now, it's been, well, you can use the LLMs and the AI to get it to tell you things. But then now to flip that and for you to tell it what to go out and do, and all that leads to, right, of like using multiple tools and having it like combine the data and having it kind of like reach these conclusions that, I mean, I used to not even think computers could do that, right? Of like looking at language in a certain way, and like looking at a whole website and looking at personas and how does it match up to what your features say? I mean, it's mind blowing. And I think that we all need to just like study some of this and just keep learning, because there's even more to come. And so as far as motivating someone to use this model context protocol MCP server that empowers LLMs to use some of Open Strategy Partners' core writing and product marketing techniques, like, who is it for, and what can we do to encourage people to geek out on this experiment, start using it?
Yeah, it's for anybody who writes content, especially through a marketing lens. So if you care about your marketing skills and messaging, then this could be a tool in your toolkit for everyday use for every piece of content that you write. The path to getting it right now is probably easiest if you have a pro subscription for Claude and download Claude Desktop. It works like ChatGPT. I like it better. I think it writes better text, and it's got the ability to run MCP servers. There are other products out there that also can run MCP servers, but the easiest for a marketer is probably Claude Desktop because they're the one who created the protocol. So you would download Claude Desktop, make sure you've got a pro subscription, and then just Google or Perplexity search for the instructions for getting MCP up and running. Depends on if you're on a Mac or a Windows machine, it might be slightly different. You might have to install Python, maybe another package somehow, but there are clear instructions. You just copy something and paste it, and it's there. And then the instructions for installing the OSP marketing tools is right there on the GitHub page, and you should just read them from there and follow the directions there. And it's per platform, so whatever computer you're using, you can do it. In the future, this is all going to get a lot easier. By trying it now, you're just trying something that's really new and really cool.
Yeah, right now we're on the cutting edge. We're in beta mode. And imagine in the future when you just tell Claude to install all this instead of having to read the instructions. We'll get there, right? It's just one step at a time. But for
People are
now, it's
working
good
on that.
because, yeah, we're working on that. But you don't want to wait until then because then everyone will be using it and your competitors will be using it. So it's better to get to this now, especially if you write content and especially from a marketing angle, and especially if you're more on the geek side and you say, I'm so over thinking this through on my own, using my own brain and my own kind of, I only know so much, right? I only have X number of hours in a day when I wake up, and I'm biased by my past and what I know, and I want to figure out a better way and more sustainable way and more scalable way and faster way because other people are using this. So it's time to get caught up, and it's time to start using OSP marketing tools, which you can find on GitHub, to do all these amazing things that Robert is talking about to refine your content, to get better SEO, to get better messaging and marketing. This is an amazing time to be alive that AI can help us get there. Of course, we still have to think. We, of course, still have to have a team of people to do it. But imagine going out and having it hitting all these APIs and doing all this scraping and indexing for you. That's what we want to be doing, and it'll only get crazier. So let's get started now. The best time to start was probably a year ago, but hey, it's best next time right now. OSP marketing tools on GitHub. And before I let you go, Mr. Robert, it's time for the scary part of the show where I try to stump you. I try to put you on the spot by asking for a fun or helpful quote or lesson that has served you in life, business, marketing. Take your pick. So, does anything come to mind for you as far as a helpful and fun quote or lesson for us?
Well, you really do stump me with that one, and I couldn't think of anything super witty, even with the heads up. But one of the things that I've liked to adhere to throughout my entire career is when you enter a room, meet everybody in the room. And I use that in a metaphorical sense. So when I take a new interest in something like MCP, Model Context Protocol, I'm instantly on all the Discords and the Slacks and on Reddit, watching what people are posting. And every time they post something that's interesting to me, I reach out to them and I tell them that, and then I end up having conversations with a lot of people. So I actually know almost all of the founders who are building companies on Model Context Protocol right now, like a dozen of them. And the best example of that maybe was 2 days ago, or no, yesterday. I was in a Discord Slack chat, and the CEO of a company called Graphlit came in and said, "Hey, we just dropped this MCP server for Graphlit." And I was like, "I don't know what Graphlit is, but I'll check it out." So I went and checked it out, and I built the example that I described to you today on Graphlit since yesterday. And then I reached out to that guy, the CEO of the company, and said, "Dude, that was awesome. I did this cool thing with it. I'm going to be on a podcast about it even." And now he and I are going to have a conversation. So this kind of modus operandi of if you enter the room, make sure you know everybody in the room.
That's really great, and especially because you figure if you are a more tech leaning, more programming, you probably might be more introverted, right? You might be more of a Wozniak than the job. So it's very important to just make that effort. And it's if you look at the percentage of time of networking or LinkedIning or messaging or reaching out, like it's not that much of your day, but if you it really compounds over time, and if you stay hidden in your box, then you really miss out and you'll regret it later. And life is too short. So I love that advice there, Mr. Robert. You get in that room, you introduce yourself to everyone in the room. Of course it's awkward, but everyone else is shy and nervous, maybe even more than you. And now you have the strategy that you learned here from Mr. Robert Douglas from OSP Marketing Tools and from OpenStrategyPartners.com. And he says, if you're in that situation, just get over it. Don't think about it. Introduce yourself. It'll lead to many amazing things. And real quick, Open Strategy Partners, they're an open source and B2B tech marketing agency. They align marketing strategy and content with your vision and technical truth to generate leads, win customers, and gain advocates. That's openstrategypartners.com. That's Mr. Robert Douglas on LinkedIn from Indiana University Bloomington. But most importantly, the reason we're here, you search GitHub OSP Marketing Tools. You get that model context protocol server. You install it, you play with it, you use it, you get some results, you love it. It'll change your life. It'll change your business. OSP Marketing Tools, Mr. Robert Douglas. Wonderful speaking with you today.
Thank you, Mr. Robert Plank. I enjoyed it.
All right.